Hello all, Dr. James Lani here. Hope everyone's doing fine. Hopefully we're going to have a very productive hour here and answer all the questions that you're asking. Well, let's just first get a show of hands. How many have started the process versus how many are going to start the process? Let's start with that first, okay? So if you would just type into your box whether you're just starting or you're kind of in the middle of it. And if you're at a particular stage like IRB or results or introduction, just let me know and we'll figure that out, and I'll kind of shape the program from that point forward. Okay, so definitely have people in the proposal phase. And I could walk through every stage of this thing. So the proposal phase is you have one task, okay? Your task is to come up with a good idea, okay, or reasonably good idea, and something that you're able to examine in a research question, okay? These questions, you don't have to be, most people are not from heavy research institutions. What do I mean by that? A heavy research institution is you go to a school and your professor, your advisor, okay, has a research program going on. And my guy had a research program going on for 15 years. So I just came in and just continued on with his program. And my dissertation was just an extension of his existing research. For most people, though, you're kind of starting from scratch. So you're kind of looking at existing research. In particular, you're looking at their discussion section where they say, here's future research that you can do, all right? So that's one way to get ideas. The other is that as you've come across your studies, okay, you've had questions, okay? Again, they don't have to be revolutionary. They just have to be incremental. We're just adapting or tweaking something. So you can look at old research and ask the question, hey God, you know what? They did that research 20 years ago. Is that valid today? How about with a different population or a different age group or different ethnicity or a different region of the country and so forth? So there's ways of tweaking questions, okay? There's ways of tweaking questions that can really get you through the process. By the way, when you tweak that question, guess what? You have a literature review to fall back on. You have a methodology to fall back on. Okay, you're just plugging in a new instrument or new participants to that. It's often sufficient to kind of have your committee nod in the affirmative and say, okay, this is fine. Let's carry on. So, so that's a really good way to start. Okay. Okay. Question we got going on here? All right. All right. We got a couple of questions brewing here. All right, and her handwriting is much better than mine, so I'll be able to read this. Okay, so Tracy, okay, so you said the point of data collection I'd like to know is what is the best resource for obtaining student discounts for incentives? Listen, most people just want to assist you, okay? So I wouldn't worry about these incentives for people. Can you get, a drawing for an iPad or something of that sort? Sure. I think the main challenge is identifying the sample from the population, okay, and then really having a way of contacting them. Typically, you want to do that by email. Snail mail costs too much money, and the follow-up costs too much money. So you want to just, identify the sample, send them an email, okay? By the way, you don't want to do this prior to getting approval from the IRB. That's a big no-no, and they slap your hands really hard for that. So you want to get approval, contact them, and just tell them, hey, gosh, I'm in my dissertation. I'm looking for assistance. Would you please fill this out? Again, get them a gift card, a $50 gift card for Amazon. If they're doing it for the money or for the incentives, they're probably not the people you want, okay? You want people who just want to be genuinely helpful. And often the incentive can just be, you know what, I'm happy to send you the document when it's finished. The document, of course, will just be a generalization of your findings rather than any individual. But that can often just be enough of an incentive. Okay, do you have a sample timeline for the proposals, including specific key steps? Well, first of all, with regard to timelines, and I'm not telling you anything new, you want to get out as humanly possible, as quickly as humanly possible as you can, all right? Most people are paying for their tuition. Most people are sacrificing family or work life and personal for this. So the soonest that you can get out, read, get support from us or somebody else, okay? Get out as quickly as you can. The proposals really, I mean, I guess there's a little bit of a seasonality to it. You know, during the winter or during the summer, there may not be people around to approve these things and move it along in a timely fashion. So, I mean, the proposal, you're going to have some kind of a concept paper, you know, 5 or 10 page outline that kind of lays out, hey, here's the rationale for it, here's the purpose of it, here's the kind of sample I want to get, here's the instruments I want to get, here's the procedure I'm going to use to administer those instruments to those participants and so forth. So so that's kind of the steps of it, is get that concept paper approved, typically by just your main advisor. Then a proposal is just a more formal chapters 1, 2, and 3. So for those of you who have heard me over the years, the best way to begin this, even if this is not the way to submit it, but it's the best way to think about it, I believe, which is handed down to me by my master's teacher, by the way, my advisor, which is start with the methodology. I know they're going to want you to do the introduction, get that approved, do the lit review, get that approved, get the methodology, get that approved. But start with the methodology. Why? When you start with the methodology, you're basically saying, this is how I'm going to conduct my study, okay? So if you have a good, solid way of conducting a study, okay, just read the other methodologies, okay, then that's the start of it. Then you have, think about that. If you have a methodology, you've identified your variables, you've identified the research hypothesis, then you can go back and start literature review, okay? So literature review is, let me give an example, okay? We're looking at self-esteem by gender, okay? That's the question you have, and you're doing it for whatever, 19-year-old students, okay? So then you want to know, hey, what's the differences around gender? What's the literature around self-esteem and the different instruments that are used around self-esteem? By the way, in that methodology, when you're talking about a particular instrument, you better have a reliable, valid instrument, okay? You will get dinged on at it. There's no way, if you want to study something and you don't have a good instrument in which to assess that, look for something else. You do not want to be, repeat, you do not want to be the first person studying this whole novel topic, okay? That's just going to take time. You got to develop an instrument and so forth. So start with the methodology. Then work backwards and start looking at the lit review around those variables of interest. When you look at the literature review, okay, think about things as a movie director. And a movie director is going to have widescreen shots, moderate shots, close-up shots. Widescreen shots are looking at the variables at a larger scale. For example, here's all of the self-esteem literature. Here's all the gender differences. Those are wide-angle shots. Tight shots are articles that are looking at, hey, they've looked at self-esteem by gender in the Northwest. Hey, how does it differ in a rural area, for example, okay? That could be a twist on it that is enough to move things forward. So, start with the methodology, nail down the questions, nail down the instruments, back out the introduction, Then when you look at those articles, they're going to talk about the shortcomings. You need to identify the shortcomings of that. For example, we looked in the Northwest around self-esteem by gender, but it hasn't been done in a rural area. So you can, in the introduction, you can say, I want to study self-esteem or self-efficacy by gender, but it's not been looked at in the rural areas, or it's not been looked at after some event has occurred. Maybe it's self-esteem by gender after a traumatic event, okay, or after some other kind of event. That's kind of the general layout of a intro lit review proposal. Work backwards, just like a good math problem, okay? When you have a good math problem, sometimes it's not so easy to answer the question, but if you have a selection of 4 answers, you can work backwards and plug those in. Okay, so working backwards is helpful. I hope that was helpful, John. Okay, so Pat asks, how do we keep from overreaching too ambitious of a study? Okay, can we get Pat on the phone? Okay, Pat, are you there?
I am.
Hi, Pat, how are you?
I'm very well.
All right, Pat, your question already assumes that you're too ambitious of a person.
Well, yes.
Okay, because a non-ambitious person is not asking whether or not, what do you do with it too ambitious? So you are the person I need to tell you. I hate to tell you, you're your own worst enemy when it comes to this, okay? You're being too ambitious. Our job, your job, for you, your family, your colleagues, is to get through, like I started this thing, okay? So, okay, go ahead and tell me what are you looking to study?
I'm looking at training frameworks for security personnel.
Okay, so I would first say, so let's start boiling it down, okay? Security personnel, what kind of security personnel? You got people outside the grocery store, and then you got people protecting the president. What kind of security people are you talking about?
Really, I'm looking at security analysts, so risk analysts,
okay.
That kind of thing.
Okay, are you a security analyst?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so, and you've had good training or not good training?
I've had good training, but the problem as I see it is there are a lot of certifications out there. There's a lot of ad hoc training with really variable results, and hiring agencies don't have a good metric on which to evaluate. They tend to rely on certifications like they do for project management, but there really isn't a good one out there.
Okay, so what are you trying to prove at the end of the day? So you have a magic wand, what are you trying to prove?
I'm trying to prove that security analysts are a profession much like other auditors and need to establish a formal structure for certification and accreditation.
You are right. Way too big. way too big. So let me just think for a second. So, you're looking to shift the field, and you may well be in that position to shift the field since you're in the field. So that's a good start. So for everybody else, it's a very good place to start that you're doing the job, okay? So you don't want to study something that you really don't have any experience with, because Pat is going to have access to other security analysts probably, right, Pat?
Oh, yeah.
Right. And you want to do so that's tip number 1, be in the field. Now, do you want to do a quantitative or qualitative study?
My supervisor is looking for me to do a mixed methods.
Okay, that's the kiss of death right there. Well, because you're going through two sets of literatures, you know.
Yep.
Okay, so tip number 2 for everybody. Okay, try to go one way or the other. Okay, and if you have somebody who's, you know, it may not be that you're too ambitious; they may be too ambitious. So, I would say for people that have advised that want to do mixed methods, I would say, you know, again, we just want to get through the process at the moment, okay? There's a lot of life to live when you graduate. So I would say to have one kind of main focus, for example, doing some kind of a quantitative survey of some sort, even if it's descriptive in nature, all right, and then have some open-ended questions at the end that you can then go ahead and thematize their narratives.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, you know, there's lots of ways that we persuade other people, okay? And advisors are not easily persuaded. But I think going to them with a plan and saying, how about a descriptive study of some sort? Or why don't we look at security analysts? I mean, how are they measured by how well they're doing, by the way? What does competence or success mean there? Less breaches or what?
That's one of the big problems, is they aren't really. There's a lot of pushing through if you are producing reports, but there's not a lot of assessment of whether those reports are accurate or effective.
Okay, say that again for me, though. So there's a lot of reports, but not assessments of the effectiveness, maybe?
Yeah, whether they're effective, complete, or accurate. So there are a lot of people who are going through checklists and ticking off the boxes, but it's rather like taking a 100-question multiple choice exam. It doesn't matter if you've answered 100 questions, it's whether you've actually got them right.
Right, okay. Okay, so there's really no follow-through on that.
Yeah, and because a lot of it's based on, if there's no incident, that doesn't mean the assessment was good, that just means there was no security incident.
Right. How other people looked at this this topic? Other researchers?
Not a lot of people have looked at the skills and competencies. Most of them look at the processes and the policies.
Okay.
So
so right there, that's your introduction right there. People look at the processes, but not the skills and competence. And I guess that goes back to where you began a little bit with about the training of it, you know?
Yep.
Can you give them some skills competency tests? Are those available? Or is that too broad?
That sort of, the next step is developing those kinds of things.
No one's got one out yet?
There are a lot of certification exams, but they're very quant focused and they don't tend to be analytical. Okay. So knowing which lock to use does not help you in analyzing whether the lock is going to work in the particular environment.
Yeah. I am very, very hesitant, and I alluded to this when I was talking about John with the methodology, that when you go to develop your own, say you developed your own instrument, that is just fraught with issues. Because the first thing you're going to say is that a valid instrument? Well, oftentimes you validate it against some other valid instrument. And if you had the other valid instrument, you would just use that. So, you know, for you, you're going to, I mean,
one of the things I've been thinking about is looking at the policies and the job descriptions and the job ads and position descriptions, and essentially doing an analysis. What are the skills that are being identified?
Right. Okay, so that sounds like a nice qualitative piece to it. I like that. Are they going to, how hard are they going to push you? You know what? Why don't you, I like that. So it's just maybe just do a quantitative survey, okay? A quantitative survey, just to kind of say who's in the sample, okay? Hey, they've had these trainings, they've had these certifications, blah blah blah, and then get to the heart of it, which is, hey, you know what? I want to do a qualitative assessment of what they're really asking for here with regard to policies and job descriptions. I think that would make for a very nice study right there.
Okay.
And simple. You know, and I mean, so run that by. So, and I think the tweak can be security analysts in your particular area or whoever you have access to. Be narrow around that. That's going to help you justify doing that. And say, you know what? We want to kind of get a pulse on who they are, and we want to get a pulse on what kind of, you could ask them other qualitative questions too, you know, how well do you think you are, you know, how much is skill and competence playing a role in what you're doing, and something of this sort, and then look at those job descriptions, the job descriptions. I think it's very interesting, and I think other people will find it interesting too. By the way, you're going to probably know more than your advisors around this, so it's true, right? Right?
Yep.
Oh,
well,
the security analyst?
I know more than the policymakers, so.
You know them, right. So walk slowly with as you explain this to your advisors, okay, in your writing, that is, and then you're not patronizing them, but you're just walking them through, and just don't take anything for granted along the way, and tell them how important it is, okay? People have to be told, okay, hey, this is really important, as opposed to job descriptions. Why do we care about that? No, tell them why it's important, because it's not getting to the nitty-gritty of the skills and competence, and they're just looking at how many check marks they have, independent of whether those check marks are meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope this was helpful.
Oh, that was stellar. Absolutely stellar.
Awesome. Terrific, Pat. Good luck. Let us know what happens.
Thank you.
My pleasure. All right. Bye-bye. Okay. David, I'm looking to replicate a study that was conducted in 2009. If you read about it in 2009, it was probably conducted in 2007. Okay, that used individual interventions, but identified the need to try the same with teams. Okay, I like that. I'm asking if I can use my survey. I'm not liking that. Use my survey, which I already have permission to use. You're going to deal with this validity issue. Or if I need to use the same instrument as the original. We'll try one more time. David, can you get on? Can you hear me?
I'm trying, buddy. I'm trying.
There you go. You got it.
Did I
Good
get
job. You did get me.
All right.
All right. So good, so that you can use the old replicate the study. Awesome. What is your twist in it by replicating the study? By using your own instrument?
Well, it's not my instrument. It's an instrument I already got approval to use.
Okay.
It was developed by NIOSH back in 1998. It's a safety awareness. It asks almost the same questions, only there's different categories.
Okay. So I mean,
one can I use that one, which has a Cochrane of 81. So.
Okay. So Cronbach, and it's typically anything over 0.7 kind of gets you there. So listen, if they're all okay with this new instrument, good to go. Good to go. In fact, you can use this as part of the rationale of saying, you know what, it's not been replicated in 7 or 8 years. we have this other instrument that has great reliability. So yeah, as long as they, listen, everyone, we don't care about the rest of the world. What we care about is the advisors all nodding their heads in the same direction, okay? That is up and down. So if they're all cool with it, we're good to go. So you can use the instrument you've been approved for.
Okay. And if not, I'd have to request permission to use that one, which I assume I'd probably get. But
probably. Academics are typically pretty friendly people, so they'll let you use the instrument, and as long as you share your findings with them, they're often enormously happy to do that. You good to go, David?
Well, as good as I'll ever be, I guess. We'll see next week.
Well, what's next week?
Well, as I keep going through and submitting, we'll see how I do.
All right. With this new one, they have reliability. Do they also have validity associated with it?
For you're talking about the one that I've got permission for?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I don't remember it off the top of my head.
No, that's fine. As long as it has validity and reliability, no, that's great. Just go right ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, these things are, you know, the truth is that all of these things, they're marathons. They're not sprints. Okay. So deep breath, step by step by step. All right. And always keep you positive. Always stay positive. Okay. No matter how many rewrites you got to do, you know, stay positive. There's a lot of PhDs and EDDs kicking around the world. Okay. You're one of them. Terrific. All right, David. Good talking with you. You take care. Okay. So I have Tracy talking my language about the new software. New software being launched, a new revised version of your data report analysis. If so, I'm interested because within the next 2 months, I need to have completed this section and submit for review. So yeah, so the software is going to be able to do most common analyses, even some advanced, but it's going to be another month or so. So yeah, I mean, you can use the software as an individual. You can sign up. It's $59 a month. It's pretty darn cheap. Typically, our fees are several $1,000s for a results chapter. Now you have a human being, but in the one-to-one consulting manner. So yeah, it's available right now. I mean, you can go to the website under Intellectus Statistics. The Sadies will type in the name of it, intellectusstatistics.com, and you'll get routed to the website where you can purchase it. Okay. Okay, Cincy, how do I prepare for my final orals? I didn't do so well with my first presentation. Cincy, can I talk to Cincy? Hi, Cincy.
Okay. Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. How you doing?
Oh, good.
All right. So have you heard of these things called the TED Talks?
I think so. They're kind of like, they're pretty long.
20-minute talks.
Oh,
the 20-minute talks.
No.
Okay. Well, they're free videos. They got the smartest people in the world giving you their information. And there's one gal who talks about the power pose, okay?
Okay.
A power pose is you stand up, your legs are spread apart, your hands are on your hips, okay? You with me?
Yes.
Okay, can you do that right now, please?
Stand up.
Can you stand up, put your feet at hips width, put your hands on your hips, okay? All right?
Yes.
And you do that for 2 minutes before you go in for that final presentation, okay? And by the way, any job seekers, you do the same thing. All right? So you want to feel powerful inside, because you're going to answer the questions the way you answer the questions. And some of those questions you'll have answers to, and some of them you won't. And the ones you don't, you'll say, good question, I'll be sure and get that answer to you. Okay? But your confidence is never shaken in the process. Because your job, part of it is presenting what you have, but part of it is who you are. Okay? And people pick up on who you are more than they pick up on what you're doing, okay? Or at least equally. You're there just to present the information that you have gathered, period. That's your job, all right? So, so when is your final presentation? Okay, so we've lost Cincy. So when you give your final presentation, you're going to present it probably in PowerPoint. Obviously, everything in that document you need to know frontwards and backwards. So 2 points. 1, try the power pose position. It's important. That gives you internal strength. The next thing is that you want to tell a story. You want to tell a story through it. So oftentimes what's helpful is to say up front, what I'd like to do is to go through my slide presentation, okay, and go through my slides, and then have questions after. So feeling confident and telling the story. This is the main questions I was asking. Here's the literature, and here's where it lacked, thus my research hypotheses. Then here's the methodology I used. Here are the results, here are the findings. And here's my limitations from the study, okay? And so forth. So you want to tell the story and be confident in that telling. Okay? All right. Okay. Let's see. Other questions we have here. How do you proceed with a topic that has been studied, that has not been studied before? I'm speaking to Melanie. Can we get Melanie on there? Okay. All right, Melanie, you there? Melanie?
Yes.
Hi, Melanie. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Nice to talk. Where are you calling from, Melanie?
I am calling from North Carolina.
From North Carolina. I typically ask everybody what they're doing, and I haven't done one of these in a while, so I forgot to ask people where they're calling from. So the my first response is that I do not proceed with a topic that has not been studied, unless you want to graduate in 2021. Do you want to graduate in 2021?
No.
Are you sure about that?
I'm positive.
Positive. Okay. So think about this. A topic has not been studied. Just listen to me for one moment, okay? You're the advisor, and I'm playing Melody. So, Mr. or Mrs. Advisor, or Dr. Advisor, okay? I want to study a topic. There's been no research on it. There are no instruments that have been validated or reliability. There's no literature around it. And I'm starting from scratch. How does that sound, Doctor?
It sounds challenging.
It sounds like a recipe for 2021. That's what it sounds like. All right. Now, since you've let me tease you a little bit, all right, what topic do you want to study?
I want to do an exploratory analysis of post-traumatic stress disorder in adult children of combat veterans.
Adult children?
Of combat veterans.
I think that's a great study. I think that's a great study. I've never heard of that. I thought you were going to say adult children of alcoholics. I've never heard of adult children of combat. I think it's a great topic.
It's
so,
for a military brat, so it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
They're the same children, but I'm specifically honing in on just the combat veterans who have that diagnosis, and trying to do an exploratory analysis of if their children have it as well.
Have the PTSD because their parent does.
Yes.
They're traumatized. Their parent, they left their parent as Bob. They come back, they don't even know who they are.
Yes.
Great study.
Now
Great
I have
study.
that insight. That's my experience. So I know the study. I have access to a very large sample.
Good.
I have several thousand unhindered, no IRB access to a peer group with a listserv of about 11,000 people.
Unhindered?
Unhindered.
I have to tell you, that sounds unusual. That sounds unusual because, one, you're working with a vulnerable population. Vulnerable populations have mental illness, children, incarcerated, people, elderly people. So unhindered, something seems off to me there, but I'll take your word for it.
Okay, let me explain. It's a peer group. They're all adult children of veterans in this group.
Yep. Yep.
So we all went to the same high school, Berlin American High School in Berlin, Germany.
Okay.
From 1945 to 1982. That's my sample.
I mean, I like the study, but I'm just thinking about how to study it. So what are you trying to support or prove at the end of this?
I am trying
what would you find from this exploration?
Well, there's a Dr. Koza who works with small children through, elementary age, who says that military children will have psychopathology later in life. That's his projection. So I want to use this sample to do just a simple survey of and a skill on either. I've got at least 3 valid instruments that I can use. I can use the traumatic life event scale. I can use the PTSD checklist for civilians. I could use the MMPI 20 that measures the PTSD. So I've got very good instruments I can use. So I can do a survey simply, asking them to just self-report if they, number one, did their father have, did their parent have PTSD, and then if they perceive they have it, have them do the scale. I use those findings to kind of measure it, compare it to the results of the longitudinal study that was done by Kolka et al. That said that there were higher percentages of African Americans and Hispanics that had PTSD than Caucasians. So,
okay.
So I'll be
children?
Yes.
Okay. So how is yours going to be different then?
How is mine going to be different? Because it's not the actual friends. It's not the adult children. No one's ever done that. From the longitudinal study, that was the veteran himself or themselves.
Okay, I see. But now we're looking at the children of those parents.
Right.
I like the study.
So I will be looking at children because, and there may still be a few, World War I or II veterans, World War II veterans' children, and forward.
Just 2 things come to mind. I mean, one is this adult children of business. I mean, I think that the alcohol literature has got to have some aspect of that. And then we're really kind of talking about kind of I'll say, almost a secondary trauma of some sort. The parents been traumatized, and now they come home, and the kids are traumatized. You got to talk to somebody smarter than me. You got to talk to somebody seriously who's in the field, and what they're going to provide to you is a sense of the literature. Okay.
Okay.
You got the study down. You got the methodology down. It seems to me. You got the sample. You got the instruments. You just need to get with other people who've been studying this. I mean, you mentioned Koza, but there may be others. So I would look and then call them directly, call and or email them directly, and tell them what you're proposing. Put your thoughts down on paper, which you just kind of expressed here, if it's not already, and send it to them and tell them I'm helping find literature to help support the conducting of the study. Okay. Yeah, and they'll be helpful. All they're going to do is share with you one thing. I was doing something at UCLA 25 years ago, and it was on testosterone, and it wasn't about chess players, but Jim Sedanius was studying this, and I was working with him for a little bit, and I could not find anything. And I went to Cal State Fullerton, and this guy off the top of his head says, "Oh, check out this article." Dead-on article. It talked about close-in shot. So people know we're just not looking in the right places.
Okay.
They may not. All right. Call and email all of these people. Tell them what you do. You sound like a lovely person too.
Thank you.
It'll make that much nicer. Yeah. And call them and tell them you're looking for a literature around this, and they'll direct you in the right way. Great topic. Love it. Love
Thank you.
Especially given the current state with everybody, wrapping up 2 wars.
Yes.
And you hear it. By the way, you hear it from their wives. You hear it from their husbands too, but you hear it from their wives. So they also have that. So now you're kind of extrapolating and saying they're the children of them. So between this adult children of business and their spouses, that's got to be studied.
Yes.
And even getting around that in that ballpark and then calling those researchers and saying, here's what I'm looking to study, and be open to shaping your study too. But I think they're going to be more helpful around how to find that lit review, and you'll be on the road.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Melanie, good luck. I would love to read that study. I would love to read that study. So when you're finished with it, send it. I'd love to read it.
Look, I'll probably need that the statistics thing if I get large results.
you call it the since you talk about the statistics part, I know you say you have access to them. When I took the MMPI, there was 454 questions on these things. My training's in clinical psych, so we said take one to fake good, take one to fake bad, take one normal. It just seems like a lot of questionnaires. So just heads up about the time frame. If everyone's willing to sit for 3 hours, fine. But if not, just heads up around those instruments.
Okay.
Particularly that one. All right. Good talking with you. Love to read that study. Okay. You take care now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, so I have a few more questions here. So this one we've already got. So later on, we're through with this. And we got Pat and David down, Tracy. Okay, so we have Vicki having a similar issue to Pat. All right, having trouble narrowing down my main themes related to patient-centered medical home's ability to positively impact the cardiovascular health of SM1 patients. Problem statement, it's not known if and to what extent participation in an integrated PCM program using life goals, collaborate care interventions. Okay, Vicki, I'm going to pick on you. You have one sentence. Okay. For people who have one sentence that's over 85 words, okay, you're thinking too much about things, okay? And you have to unpack. You have all of these different important domains and topics in here. You're going to have to unpack that. So Vicki sent me, I don't know if it's 85-word sentence, but a very long sentence, okay? Break these things apart, okay? First of all, start with the big chunks. What's the one main thing I want to know, okay? All right. Then start adding as subsequent research hypotheses then add these other things as you go along. Well, I want to narrow it down to females, or I want to narrow it down to Hispanic patients. So you just have a lot packed in there. Unfortunately, fortunately, you gals are the smart ones. Unfortunately, you know, sometimes you're your own worst enemy, that you're trying to get everything done. And of which I suggest to you women and men, okay, a glass of Chardonnay, okay, that to kind of take the edge off, all right? We need that. If you come back alcoholic, don't blame me for this, okay? But you want to just unpack what is the main thing you're trying to prove. You had a magic wand. This is what you want to prove. Then think about how to turn it into a question or a hypothesis that can be supported or non-supported. Okay. All right. Other things that we have here. We have a few more questions. I hope that was helpful. And the problem is, just to go back to Vicki and Pat, they're so smart, it's tough to have someone else even talk to them about it, really, right? Because they have 25 things going on in their brain, all right, and it's tough to unpack it. So all I can say is lay it out like for a kindergartner, okay? Nice and easy, one step at a time. All right. Okay, Margot. I'm doing a research, correlational quant. I've created a new instrument also. So Margot, to create a new instrument, you've heard my story already. The first thing people are going to ask is, where's the reliability, which you can get post the administering it, but also at the validity question, okay? That is, you know, how is this instrument valid? So, and if you think about this again, if you have a brand new instrument, you're telling me that no one has studied this topic. I don't really like people studying brand new topics because with Melanie, I want you to graduate before 2025. People that work with us, they graduate within a year, okay? Developing new things and studying new areas is just, they're just tough to get through. Okay, Patsy, looking at conducting quantitative correlation study on 2 public sectors regarding succession planning. I like that. Patsy?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Patsy. How are you?
I am great. Thank you.
Excellent. And where are you calling from? I'm
calling from the Bahamas, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Oh, man, life is rough. What are you born and raised in the Bahamas, or you just moved down there?
I'm born and raised in the Bahamas, and I did many of my schooling in the United States.
Okay. And what degree are you pursuing right now?
My doctoral degree.
In? What discipline?
I'm looking at management, emphasis in management.
Management, okay,
dissertation, yes.
Okay, and okay, got it. All right, and so I like that you're doing a quant correlational study. That sounds like a nice, simple thing. So study on 2 public sectors regarding succession planning. What public sectors are you referring to?
Well, during my first residency, I wanted to look at public sectors, but they told me to narrow it down to 2. So I'm thinking about maybe looking at one that offers succession planning and one that do not offer a succession planning. I'm playing with that idea. That's why I'm looking at this too.
I like that. So, but let me ask you the who cares question. So who cares whether or not they have succession planning or not? I mean, does this speak to the effectiveness or lack thereof of that sector, or what?
Well, currently in the Bahamas, because with me in my succession in managerial position, there's a gap, and the minister also mentioned there's a gap. I did a research by Shaw, 1997. There's a gap regarding succession planning in the public sector, and there's limited research in that particular area. So that was the crux for me to start with the research by Shaw. 1997, she did that, and so that's my gap that I'm standing on for my dissertation.
So, I mean, you could ask them, do you have succession planning? I mean, I mean, you want to make sure that so it seems like you have two things going on here.
Okay.
One question is, hey, is there a difference in some kind of effectiveness or some outcome by those that have succession planning versus those who do not? So that seems like one question.
Okay.
And then the second question is, it seems to me around those that do have succession planning, okay, what kind of preparations do they do, or what is that procedure? That is to say, for the discussion chapter, hey gosh, we found differences, and these are how the succession planners actually do succession planning. Therefore, the next research can have those non-succession plannings integrate the succession planning strategies. You know?
Okay.
So one is looking at differences by planners versus not. Another one is, what are the planners doing? How do they incorporate that into that public sector? I mean, you have two public sectors. One's incorporating it. What it is hire people that have better foresight than other people? I mean, what is that? You know, how do they get that? That may even just be a question. Maybe narrow it down to one public sector. How did that succession planning get installed in that sector?
Okay. Good idea.
Because at some point they didn't. At some point they probably didn't have it, but they had a good leader who said, "Listen, I'm going to retire in 3 years. We need to start getting other people and start grooming other people, and start documenting what I'm doing and figuring out how I'm making decisions and so forth."
Okay.
So it seems like there's two veins to go to there. The first one, the kind of succession planning by group, seems kind of quantitative in nature. The how they got it instilled, what are the procedures? Well, they meet with the leader once a month, or there's a whole bunch of literature about how they do it in the private sector. And hey, here's the places where they use that private sector knowledge. Here's places where they kind of deviate from it because it's public and it's different in this way. It sounds more qualitative in nature to me.
Okay. Or would you recommend, or just look at the two, but do not do a I'm just playing with some ideas because you brought up some very important points for me to also consider. I'm wondering, should I just look at these two public sectors and see, because since the gap is indicating that there's limited research in this area and focus on these two areas, how those organizations are limited in the session planning, what would you recommend?
Well, I would think that that's kind of the inclusion criteria, right? I mean, it's kind of like, hey, you know what? Some kind of, I'll call it a manipulation check, although you're not really manipulating the sectors, but you're confirming that they do not have succession planning, right? So you're doing some kind of preliminary checklist of some sort that, hey, you know what, succession planning is something that's been talked about, or you've queried the leaders. Hey, you know what, is succession planning one of your activities during a month or a quarter or so forth, you know? So I think, so I would do some kind of validating that, hey, these really are succession planners and non-succession planners, and then look at, again, different competencies or different outcomes, you know, by that, by planners versus not.
Okay. Thank you.
My sincere
Appreciate
pleasure.
It.
My pleasure,
Okay.
Patsy. Yeah, good speaking with you.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so
My
much.
pleasure. Good night. Well, you've wasted another good hour when you could have been out having that glass of Chardonnay. I hope this was helpful to people that got through and the people that did not get through. So I do want to highlight a couple quick things. We have the next webinar is with Kaya. She's great at qualitative. June 15th, 7:30. If you're doing qualitative or plan on doing qualitative, she's your gal. Excellent at what she does. And I want to just put a promo in for software. Go to Intellectus Statistics. I say this as putting that up. We definitely have a whole range of consulting services, from topic development all the way through to defense. And I just want to say thank you all for staying with us for this hour, and I wish you all a great night, and we'll see you June 15th. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.